Time to get out, dust off the 22s, and have a little fun. That's what we're talking about on today's episode of Roughshod Outdoors. Howdy folks, and welcome back to Roughshod Outdoors. And today's going to be all about the 22 long rifle. And now, as far as a hunting cartridge, it's obviously not the greatest, but it has taken down probably, I don't know about every animal on planet Earth, but pretty darn close. You know, if you get close enough and shoot them in the head, it can certainly get the job done, but that's not really what we're talking about today so much. It's more about practice and, you know, fundamentals. Some people that like to watch this channel are new shooters and stuff. So I thought I'd bring out some 22s and just talk a little bit about them. First thing, this is just your basic run-of-the-mill Henry. It's a full-size adult model, but you know, just your standard open sights. And you can put a scope on them pretty easily, but if you shoot a lot of open sights, this is, you know, your 30-30s, 45-70s. This is a good rifle to have for practicing or for just learning the fundamentals of lining up your front and rear sight. Probably one of the more simple rifles to use. It's got the tube that you pull out to load your, it holds 15 22 long rifle, which you know, you can get a lot of cheap practice in quickly. If you don't know, it's just, you know, obviously just a basic lever action. Now these, you don't see this style much anymore. There's no crossbolt safety. There's no tang safety like the modern Winchesters have. It's just your good old half cock on the hammer. So, you know, if I know a lot of people, they get a little worried about, you know, when they lever one in and then you got to let the hammer down to get it in half cock, which isn't quite such a big deal anymore because maybe the newer Henry lever action, like 30-30s and pistol caliber and 45-70s, they might. Winchesters on the 94s went to the rebounding hammer, so this is definitely a little different than that. But so you kind of have to get used to learning how to do that. But for me, what I found, you know, if I'm carrying this in the woods, squirrel hunting or whatever, rabbits, ptarmigan, something like that, grouse. Now, depending on your state, you can't hunt grouse with a 22, but I usually don't even carry around in the barrel because it is just so quick and I'm ready to go, hammer's cocked. But if I am, sometimes, you know, if I don't maybe I'm making a little stock on a rabbit or whatever, which is almost impossible. But you know, the best way I've found is if you're going to let the hammer down, pull the trigger, let go of the trigger. So then you just got your thumb, and then you'll go right to half cock. And you don't need to worry about missing that half cock, because now if you have the trigger pulled, it'll go all the way down, and then you could have an accidental discharge. But if you pull the trigger, release the hammer, then let go of the trigger, it goes right to half cock. Simple. And this is a good rifle to carry, you know, depending on if you need to use it for dispatching something. I don't know if it's what I would go for, but for, you know, maybe a trap line rifle or something, this is definitely a nice, light, easy to pack little rifle. And you get a lot of shooting in for not a lot of money. And in 2026, with the price of ammo, even if you reload, it's expensive to shoot. So, you know, if you like lever actions, which I think there's definitely seeing a resurgence in lever actions in the last few years, but these Henrys are, they're a pretty nice option. I don't know what they retail for anymore. I think I bought this one when I was 19 down in Prescott, Arizona, when I was cowboying down there. I know the Golden Boys and stuff, those are a little bit more expensive, but you know, they're a really nice rifle to have and shoot, you know, economical, they're quiet. Here is a Marlin 795. These were a really, really economical option. 20 years ago? This is actually the first real firearm that I got. I got it for Christmas when I was 11 or 12. And, you know, had a little bit of trouble with it, hunting raccoons in the rushes in the wintertime. I actually, with the old farm dog, we'd go out on the lake, and then he would find raccoons sleeping and, you know, hibernating in the rushes, and he'd be barking at them, and I'd come over there and dispatch them with this. I do remember once, though, I had, it was cold. It was probably between 20 and 30 below, but it locked open and I couldn't get the darn thing to work. And that raccoon lived to see another day, unless I got him a couple days later. But that was one thing that, and I never did really figure out what the issue was there. But you know, I don't think these Marlin 795s were quite as reliable as like the Ruger 1022. The Ruger 1022s can run you a little bit more money, and I don't even know if Marlin still makes these, to tell you the truth. But again, you know, just a 10-round magazine. For as far as, you know, economical good practice, I don't think anybody anymore shoots enough 22. It seems like, you know, we want to shoot our bigger caliber guns, which there's nothing wrong with, but I think a lot of people, if they shot 22s more, would it helps their marksmanship, because you might start to develop a little bit of flinch from shooting some of your heavy Western game rifles, you know, or I shouldn't say heavy, because a lot of times they're getting lighter and lighter, it seems like, every year. I've seen some even in 300 PRC that are 5 pounds, which that'll give you a good thump. And hard to say, but a lot of us, even me myself, had a flinching problem in my teens. It's not as, I like to say that it's gone, but it can always be there. But just going out and shooting the 22 again and focusing on the fundamentals of, now this obviously has a scope, but bringing it up, you know, and clicking your safety off. I'm putting it back on just for now, but, and getting your breathing down, you know, breathe in and let the breath out, breathe in again, let that breath about 3/4 of the way out and squeeze off your shot. And practice on that and get used to doing that again, and it'll make you a better shot with your hunting rifles. And then, you know, a 22 6-shooter, 6-gun like this, or like a Browning Buckmark automatic, if you carry automatics more. I carry single actions more than anything else. They're what I'm comfortable with them. I like how they feel, how they shoot. This pistol was my first pistol. Got it for graduation in Idaho, and you can see I got kind of corny and was carving tally marks in the butt of different stuff I've dispatched with this thing, which has been a lot. Actually, the first thing I dispatched with it was a horse. That wasn't. I try to forget that memory, but a lot of hogs. At least one cow, and yes, the cow, I knocked it out, but and that was with 22 mag. I got long rifle cylinder in here now, but it also has the 22 Magnum cylinder. But yeah, knocked the cow out, but didn't kill her. Definitely thought she was, but nope. That's on another video somewhere. But you know, this is a good fun way to get your fundamentals down shooting a single action 6-gun, if that's what you carry most of the time. And again, much cheaper than shooting 45 Colt, which factory ammo is expensive. You know, when it comes to shooting two-handed, which I try to do most of the time, you know, especially if I had a cougar or a bear, or, you know, I've said before that there's very few documented wolf attacks on people, but there is documented wolf attacks on people. You know, wild dogs. If you can use both hands, I really like the method of cocking the pistol with my left thumb. I'm right-handed. And then with, I don't know, sometimes I've got, it really depends, I guess. Sometimes I've got my opposite trigger finger in front of the trigger guard. Sometimes I don't. It feels like it feels better in front. And I'm not saying it's wrong to hold it with both hands and cock it with your shooting hand thumb. Because we all know, if you don't know who Brian Pierce is, he's like the modern day Elmer Keith. If you watch his videos, sometimes he uses his shooting hand thumb. The only thing I don't like about that method is it almost, it kind of forces me to adjust my grip on the gun, because especially with the Colt style high hammer spur, you kind of have to reach. Even with my big hands, I kind of, it's a long reach. So that's why I prefer just running it with my left hand, especially if I got to shoot quickly. And it's just the way I practice. So anyway, and again with the 22 long rifle, it makes practice so much cheaper. Especially, in today's 2026, ammo is so expensive, but now these are, a 22 pistol is something you can carry. I guess now with the huge rise in predators, and depending on where you are, Alaska, you might get attacked by a moose. More people get attacked by moose than bears in Alaska, or I should say hurt. That might come from car accidents, but these are definitely something nice to have. And out west, seems like every cowboy's got either one of these or Ruger Single 6 in their pickup. I remember an old cowboy and I were, this was in Idaho, and we were going to get this old late 50s GMC dump truck that he had got from this rancher, and we were going to drag it home. Of course, the old thing didn't run, and we were kind of working on it, and we needed some tools in the shop or something, and there was an old bunkhouse not far from where this old dump truck was parked. And now this guy had worked for this rancher at one time. They were good friends, so anyway, we walked over, and then alongside that old trailer house, there was like a shop off to one side of it, but it was open. It didn't try to explain how that worked, but there wasn't like a man door to go through or a garage door. It was just kind of a shed, a lean off of one side of the trailer house, and then an open area, with tools and whatnot. But anyway, this was in end of May. And we walked over there to look for some tools, and there was a young mule deer buck under the bench. And there was something wrong with him. He wasn't running, he was sick, and he wasn't doing too good. So that old cowboy, he's like, well, geez, we can't, this poor thing, he's sick. And we went over to his pickup and had a Ruger Single 6, and this is a Heritage, and he dispatched that deer that was suffering. And for some reason, I don't have too much memory of what we did with that deer after that. We must have got it out from under the bench. And I don't know if any of you live in Idaho on the Salmon River. In summer, it gets warm. But anyway, that's something that is handy to have. Now, depending on your state, you can't have a loaded firearm in your vehicle unless you have a concealed carry. So I'm not, I'm not saying that you should do that. We can check your state laws because they vary. But anyway, yeah, I just want to say, the 22 long rifle is still an important rifle that you should have, rifle and pistol that you should have in your collection. And, I think you should shoot it more often than you're shooting your big, heavy hunting rifles, defense pistols, and stuff like that, because it makes you a better shot. So that'll be today's video. I'm Pete Refshaw with Refshaw Outdoors. Keep your powder dry.